Alright, so this is my Eagle. It's 86 wagon, or all the same, pretty well, except mine's heavily modified. Most of it, from about this point up, is the same on an SX4. About midway here, right up. So the rot will be the same, and in the same places in the rear hatch, you also see it. Okay, so the first part that you look is underneath here. You have these. These are stuck into rubber walnuts. Sometimes these will corrode right through the car, and you'll see it leaking. As well as underneath this crappy trim of mine, it can also leak quite a bit, especially down in here and around the front of the windshield. I haven't seen that too much, but it does happen. Same with these channels, they will rot out. Alright, so let's go to the back here. Alright, around the back hatch, right up in here on the bottom, what there is a bunch of holes in here. If they get clogged, it can't drain, and you can see what happened to my hatch right here is the water came in, it settles in there, and it rots it out. So there's two holes. If they get plugged, it'll rot your hatch. Same as around the top. This is just a crap paint job, don't mind it in some areas. Around the top, if water sits in here, it'll rot. You can see mine, it's got a bunch of tree gunk in there. If you don't keep that cleaned out, you're gonna have problems. Alright, so let's go to the back here. We'll start. Now, don't mind my mess here, I took the back shelf out. So if you're looking in here, don't mind this is the Jeep Cherokee. I got wired into this basically for all the wiring. Now, right around here is where the rear leaf springs mount. What you want to do is, when AMC made these vehicles, they put some ridiculous type of paint there. And what happened was, it doesn't let the moisture go. The moisture gets underneath of it after a few years, if it gets scratched or dug or whatever, and it rots it out underneath. It looks good from the top, but it rots it out underneath. What I had to do with mine, and you'll see when I get underneath on both sides, right up to, let me see if I can see it here, there's a seam in there, right past that bolt. Can't get to it. I'll show you underneath. There's a seam there where it meets the side of the car, and what happens is the rock gets in that seam and it just spreads. As well as if, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you get underneath the coating that it has, AMC put stock. So what I did for mine is I had to cut a bunch of rot out, and then I used Pour 15. You put it on with a paintbrush, and now the back of my car can be pretty well swimming pool. Nothing will happen to it. You can barely even drill through it. I'm not gonna vacuum this out. Anyway, so let's get underneath and have a quick look here, and I'll show you what I mean. Cherokee gas tank. Alright, so rear leaf springs will wait another day. So you can see right here where I had to cut out. That extended right to the lip. Over here I had to grind a bunch out, and you can see how it's still soft in parts, but that's fine. What I did was I replaced that metal, had it welded in, it's welded in from the top, and then I seam sealed it, so that's fine. And then just to be on the safe side, I put some bolts through where the leaf spring is, just to make sure that the metal's held down and it's safe. But she's welded in there, so there's no problem. So on each side, right above the leaf springs, you got to look right in there and around the seams. I said if you don't look around those seams, you're going to be in for a mighty nasty surprise like I was with this. Alright, so generally right up underneath the car, she's pretty good. You might get a bit of rot. This was another nasty surprise of mine. If your vehicle sits, guess what's going to happen? Now I chopped this out. You can see where the spare tire was to get my Jeep Cherokee tank sitting there properly. But if you have moisture that sits in your vehicle, it'll sit in that spare tire area and it'll rot it out. You won't know because it's sitting underneath that stuff that AMC coated your vehicle with. Mine was a fairly small size rot hole. I got rid of it, put in another flatter piece, touched up the middle there so I get my tank in, and Bob's your uncle. If you see a bunch of oil spots everywhere, it's because I just did a bunch of work to the car. Replaced the rear end, doing the front end. I don't have my front CV axles in or my front differential, because I just had them rebuilt. So what I did was I took CV studs, you'll see it right here, CV studs, and I torqued them in. Alright, so this is the really big point that a lot of Eagles rot really, really badly. And this is what I want to point out, because I found this recently, and we just Did a fast job on it to get her done. So right here is where people are talking about. It's at a weird angle, and I'm a big guy. So here's your front tire, your lower control arm. You look up above it on the frame, you'll see these bolts. Well, that's fine. Look up above those bolts. It's hard to see when you get the CV axle in, and you'll see that part of the frame right there. Mine looked perfectly fine, and I was scrubbing it off to paint it, and what I found was my brush went right through a small portion of it. So I hammered around, found the weak point, we cut it out, and my buddy's welder wasn't working properly for a bit, so we just booger welded it in there for now until I can clean it up. Anyways, that gives you the idea of what's going on there. So that is the bad point in these vehicles. If that rots out, you're going to have a hell of a time fixing it. So just keep an eye out, get in there with a little body hammer. They have a little sharp edge on it. Tap into it, and if you see it stinking in, you got some rot there. But it's not all bad. As you can see, my mine's fairly long, but the size of a box of craft dinner. And it was a fairly easy fix. And it's a design by AMC that causes this. If you take a look right here, that right there has a small part that's opened up, and it leaks right down into the frame. And it's supposed to come out that hole right there, but it doesn't. Damn thing. Anyways, so that's your basic worst points for the AMC Eagle. My other side is good. I got a few leaks in my engine and stuff. As I said, this side is going to need some attention, but that's just rust where I brushed it off. So that's essentially what you want to watch out for on these cars for the main points. Oh god, I'm stuck. And I don't think there's really too many other points. I mean, you get your standard inner sills underneath these. They will rot towards the back, sometimes during the front. Usually the driver's side, if you're in the salt belt like I am in Nova Scotia here, you'll get a lot of rot. The front of your doors will rot. As you can see, mine isn't the best there. My bad. For those of you wondering about the Jeep YJ handles as well, that's what these are. They're a much better build. Oh, I see mine's moving around a little bit. Gotta tighten her back in there. Anyways, they're a much better build than the other ones. These came black, but I used them a lot. You can tell these don't get used a lot, so here you go, the quick and dirty. What to look for on an AMC Eagle for the worst points. If you got any questions, just let me know. Thanks.